commend this bill to the House.
Speaker.
I call the Honourable Mark Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's a pleasure to take a call on this, the Brokering Weapons and Related Items Controls Bill. Although I sat for a short time on the Foreign Affairs, Defence and Trade Select Committee, I didn't actually get to do any work on this, but I'm very pleased to take a call on it. Madam Speaker, this is actually a really important issue, and one that I'm really pleased as a country that we have decided to address. And I want to acknowledge the Right Honourable Jerry Brownlee, because it was him as Foreign Minister that introduced this bill to the House and, of course, to the Select Committee process. The reason why I think it's very important is if we look at the history over the last 20 or 30 years globally, if we just go back 30 years, the amount of conflict that we see around the world and the real issue that communities face with the illegal trade of weapons and arms across what's been pretty porous sort of borders. And actually, if we're really honest about it, the international community probably hasn't been as good as it could be in terms of policing that. It's very good to see that in the last decade, especially with the serious implementation of end-user certificates, is that countries now are really starting to tighten up and police who's actually trading and brokering arms, where those arms are ending up, and whether they're being used for a legitimate purpose. So I welcome the bill. It's a very good bill, and as a country we're sending a very positive signal that we're going to regulate our own industry. Now, there was a comment made by the Honourable Todd McClay referring back to a statement made by the Honourable Ron Mark, referring to us as peaceniks, and the fact that we like to dance around the maypole and sing Kumbaya. But actually, this is a pretty serious bill, and I would hazard a guess that as his leader is now standing, the Right Honourable Winston Peters as our Foreign Minister, stood in this House and delivered a serious speech for 15 minutes outlining very clearly the importance of this bill to us as a country. I would assume that the Honourable Ron Mark will now change his position and he'll be voting for it. So, Madam Speaker, I'm only going to take a short call. I stood to support the bill. It is a very good bill. Just very quickly, in terms of our defence industry, it is small, but it is growing. And I can say with confidence that actually the brokering of arms is not something that really is. It's not an area that our defence industry participates in at the moment. They're more involved in the development of very specific components or fuel farms or support services for our defence forces. That relationship between our NZDF and our defence industry has got much closer. It's healthy, it's strong, and they'll be welcoming the passage of this bill as well. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
I call Golriz Garriman.
Madam Speaker, it is an honour for me to stand in support of this bill, and it was an honour for me to sit on the Foreign Affairs, Trade and Defence Select Committee as we